All right, so we are live and we're going to be talking about how you can set up a profitable exit, because one day you will be exiting your business. And so I'm super excited to have an exitpreneur here with me. When I say exitpreneur, I mean someone who is the author of the actual book, the Playbook, which just came out today, of the Exitpreneur's Playbook. So Joe, first off, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Super excited that you're here. And so one thing, I have this paranoid, I don't know if it's an ADD thing, but I'm always worried that I messed something up with tech, because I do that sometimes. So for those of you who are listening, if you don't mind, just do me a quick favor, write in the comments, you can hear me, that you're excited, something, or just give a thumbs up, just something, so I know and I can feel confident that Joe and I aren't just broadcasting to a stream with no one there, or at least people just see our mouths moving. So if you could, that would be super, super helpful. Just give that little thumbs up icon, or just comment down below. And I'm going to do a couple other housekeeping notes as we do that, but we're going to be getting into how to have a successful... let me make sure the stream is working here in Facebook, as we got folks trickling on in.
Stephen Hancock says coming through loud and clear.
All right.
Stephen Pope. I don't know what to tell you there, my friend. Genetics.
Yeah, so Stephen Hancock did say we're coming in through loud and clear. So thank you, Stephen. Stephen Pope from my Amazon guy earlier commented, Joe, how do you keep your hair? Joe does have good hair. One time somebody commented on a live stream I did with Joe a while back that Joe looked kind of like Tom Cruise. So we got Joe the Sauce Valley / Tom Cruise going on here. So always a good thing. And I think the person said I look like Michael J. Fox too. So I don't know. I don't think I look anything like Michael J. Fox, but you do kind of have a Tom Cruise thing going on.
Fox was my favorite though on Family Ties.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was great in that.
And Justine Bateman.
Yes. I think probably everyone from that generation at some point had a crush on Justine Bateman. Mm-hmm. And you hear more about her brother than you do her these days, because her brother's still kind of around. You see him in shows, but I haven't seen her in years. But that's not the reason that we're here to talk about Justine and what's her brother's name again?
Jason,
that's right. The J&J show. So, all right. So I apologize. I'm just trying to make sure the Facebook part is working correctly, because sometimes things just don't work the way we want. But anyway, while I'm doing that, Joe, why don't you take a quick moment and introduce yourself?
Okay, sure. For those that are listening, Joe Valley, self-employed since 1997, hence the gray on the chin. Sold my first e-commerce business back in 2010, and then joined the Quiet Light team, the company that sold my business, in early 2012. And Mark Dowse, the original partner, and I are now, the original founder and I are now partners. So I've been at this for over a decade, and today is the official launch day of the Exitpreneur's Playbook, awesome. Which is a book. It's a culmination of 10 years of work in the online M&A space, helping people really avoid drinking from a fire hose, if you will, when they get on the line with a broker or advisor, or talk to somebody who just sold their business. There's so much to learn, so much to know. I had to write it. Somebody sent me an email the other day, Kevin, that summed it up very well. He said, Joe, I've read a lot of business books. Most of them did not need to be written. This one needed to be written and must be read by all online entrepreneurs. And that sums it up right there. It's great stuff.
Well, gotcha. So what is the things that you're finding that people wish they knew when they get to the point of selling? Because as I hear from you and a lot of your colleagues, once you get to the point of being ready to sell, it's too late really to make changes to maximize that exit.
Yeah, most of the time, once they get to the point of selling and wish they knew something, they just wish they could turn back the clock and go back, 6, 12, 18 months and do some more prep work in advance. Because, money that you spend in the 12 months prior to closing that is not a profitable return on investment goes against your list price because you're taking that discretionary earnings and multiplying it times a multiple. So it would hurt your list price. But there's also other intangibles, like risk and fear and transferability and documentation and things of that nature that go into the valuation process that people don't take into account, which is crazy because those are the things that the buyers look at, and they're the things that they're the ones that are writing the checks or sending the wires as it is these days.
Sure. So, okay. So let's review real quick, both the art and the science of this. So let's talk about the science, which I'm sure has got a lot more arts into it, but like, what is the basic formula for how you figure out how a business is valued at?
Yeah. I think I'd probably say in the book, there's, valuating a business or putting a proper valuation on it is 10% math, science, and 90% art. The math is simple. It's once you understand it, it's simple. Let me rephrase that. It's your seller's discretionary earnings times a multiple, and that equals the list price of your business. If you've got inventory-based business, then that's going to be added in addition to the purchase price. So the trouble is calculating discretionary earnings. So people would be running a profit and loss. They've got a net income at the bottom of the P&L, and then you've got to do an add back schedule. And those add backs are generally owner benefits or one-time expenses that will not carry forward to the new owner of the business.
Got it. And those one-time things might be like if I went to a conference to learn something, or I attended a training course of some sort. So not something that the owner is going to be doing like in an ongoing thing, whereas like supplies would be something that the owner would constantly be doing.
Right. So if you went to Brand Accelerator Live and hung out with Scott, that would be considered an add back or maybe a one-time expense, unless you brought your employee on, right? You can't add back the employee because that employee will carry forward with the business, and that's not an add back. But you, as the owner operator of the business, if you go to the Prosper Show in July, if you're not at a booth pitching your software as a service business, then if you're just visiting the show to help improve your own experience, then it's a experience that's in your head and does not, recur every year, and that expense doesn't carry forward. So that would be an add back example. And that can make a tremendous amount of difference, right? So somebody going to the Prosper Show, simple example, you're probably going to spend $1,500, $2,500 going there, hanging out, going to the hotel, hanging out in Vegas, all that stuff. That times a 4-time multiples, $10,000 off the list price of your business if you did not do a proper add back schedule.
Okay, gotcha. So if you spent $2,500 on that, on that expense, if you're adding it back in and then multiply it times 4, you're getting the $10,000 back.
That's your $10,000. Yeah. Whatever your multiple might be. Yeah. And there's the chapter 11. Yeah. Chapter 11 of the book goes through the 3 different levels of add backs, and under each level, there's 6 different levels. So there's 18 examples there, but it really still doesn't cover everything because every business is unique and different. And I could have written an entire book on add backs, and that would just put people to sleep. Couldn't do that.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk more about the less of the stuff that might put people to sleep with the math part of it. And let's talk more about as you mentioned, there was a lot of kind of an emotional thing. I can see that because, selling a house can be kind of an emotional thing. So I can only see a business, which you actually created, as opposed to a house, which you bought and lived in. But
So the Exitpreneur's Playbook talks about a lot of different real life stories, people that had great successes and some that had some epic failures, a couple of my own epic failures in there. The success stories, there's actually a video on the homepage of exitpreneur.io that really encapsulates the feeling that people have when they have a successful exit. It's a couple, Brian and Janine, and I sold their business a year and a half ago now. And they ended up with a 7-figure exit in the range of, let's say, 2 to 6 million there, ballpark. Not giving anything away, right? It's a broad range.
Right. So somewhere in that range.
But, they both talk about the peace of mind that they had when the sale was done. Because they had an Amazon business that they grew from 0 to 5 million in 3 years. right?
Mm.
That is crazy growth. And they never took anything out of the business because they're just trying to keep up with inventory, sending money over to China all the time and increasing their own exposure and debt and risk. And Brian wrapped it up pretty well with, life is really good right now. That was the end of it. And that's the last thing he said in the video. And it's just peace of mind because he's got that comfort, that money in the bank, knowledge, the ability to do it again in a non-competing category. And they've done that. They've had already launched a second Amazon business in a non-competing space. Now they've got a couple of Airbnbs down in Florida. They actually rent a Jeep as well. So they're making money in all sorts of different ways through Turo. But there's a certain peace of mind that comes with it. And I just got an email from somebody this morning that's in the book. I think starting on page 20. I told him to start reading on page 20. His name is Jeremy. He was in the corporate world, was making six figures and quit his job to start an Amazon business and live off his wife's teacher's salary. Right?
Oh, wow.
Not much, but she had great benefits, and he got to be a stay-at-home dad at the time. It's been 3 years now since I sold his business. And he said, Joe, my net worth is growing every single year without me doing much more than some consulting here and there, this and that, staying at home with my son, and being really good at saying no to things that don't, fit within my heart, which was really inspiring, right? Thanked me for the difference I made in his life. And it's actually him. And he said, even though he's been through the exit, he said, I wish I had the book, even before I exited, because it would have been that much better of an exit. And we just, he and I had chatted a year before he was exiting, but he might have been inspired to hang on even another year afterwards and hold on 3 years instead of the 2 that he did. And he would have made, quite a bit more, I think.
Yes. Now let's just take a quick pause, time out before we get into more questions, because I'm getting lots of folks who are asking me, so what's the name of this book? What book is Joe talking about? And so, yes, we want to make sure everyone has that information. So if you head over to maximizingecommerce.com/exit, you will go to this page right here, which I'm about to share, where you can see the listing. We all understand Amazon listings. You can see Joe's listing for his book, The Exitpreneur's Playbook, on Amazon, which I have now purchased 2 copies of. One is the Kindle version, and I also have a hard copy, I should say, an actual tangible copy. And so also, if you want, you can go to, I'll create a banner for this, gene.us, basically genius, the Exitpreneur. So let me create a little banner for that.
Yeah, I couldn't put that in the comments myself. That's a universal link for people anywhere else in the world. The book is launching. The book is launched today, folks. It is launch day. I've been working on this for a decade, toiling at writing this for the last couple of years, but really focusing on the contents of it for the last decade since I sold my own e-commerce business. And if you have any inkling of maybe exiting your business someday, this should help put all those pieces together in a uniform fashion. It would answer all of the questions that you would have along the way. I sold about 100 million in total transactions. My teams touched $500 million in total transactions. And from the moment you're thinking about a potential exit all the way through to closing is covered throughout the entire book. And there's a lot of stories in there, like Jeremy's story or Lee's story, who, she's from Vietnam originally, came to the country when she was 15 years old with her mother and 3 sisters. They had $200 to their name, Kevin. And she started an FBA brand and exited for just under 7 figures last year. And she had an unsellable business originally. And then we had to do some work. And, I think about 9 to 12 months later, she came back and was able to sell it fairly quickly with multiple offers and got an all cash deal.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into some questions that I have, but I just want to give a quick plug. If anyone is watching at any time that we're talking, feel free to plug a question in the comments. Whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, I'm sure you know where the comment section is. Feel free to ask a question. I'll bring it up on the screen. But just real quick, Joe, take me back to your first exit when you sold, because you weren't a broker at the time. You were just you were an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. I had, I came from the direct response world. So the radio direct response world and the TV direct response world. I owned a media buying agency that I started back in 1997. Then I launched my own products, my first one in 98 and the second one in 2001. That second product I took 100% online in 2005. And I ran it through the best of and the worst of the economy. And I came out the other end tired, Kevin. I just woke up one day. I'm like, I'm done. I'm toast. I need to move on. And that's what I'm hoping people will avoid, right? Just getting to the point where they're tired and burnt out and need to be done. Because that means you're not going to get the kind of exit that you deserve because you haven't trained for it, as I talk about in the book. I don't want to call it exit planning. Everybody hates that. I fall asleep when people talk to me about exit planning, but this is training for your exit, right? So you get to choose your pain. You can have that good pain of knowing you're training and working hard towards a goal, or that ugly pain of just waking up and settling for much less than you deserve. And unfortunately, that's kind of what I did. I came out of the other end of 2010 very tired, or I guess it was 2009, because I decided one day in 2010, early 2010, I wanted out. And I thought, I wonder if I can sell this thing. And I reached out to 3 different brokerage firms. One of them was Quiet Light, Mark Doust, and he's the only one that actually had my best interest in mind. He reviewed my P&Ls, taught me about sellers' discretionary earnings, told me what my business was worth right then and there. Well, after a couple of phone calls, but at that time in history, and then said, you know what, if you wait another 6 months, you're going to make X amount more based upon the trends. And I thought, who the hell is this guy? He's telling me to go away. He actually is thinking about me and my best interest. I'm hooked. And so I did wait 6 months, and I came back to Quiet Light, and Jason, who's still here, was my advisor at the time. And we had it listed and sold. I think we were under LOI in 3 weeks. We had multiple offers, closed in 40 days.
Letter of intent?
Yeah. Sorry. Acronyms. Letter of intent. Good. And I took about a year off doing different things and joined the team in early 2012. And since then, I think in 2012, it was an interesting year. It was just scrambling and hustling. 2013, I closed 23 transactions, which is clinically insane these days. Okay. They're much larger today than they were back then. I think my average deal size might have been 125,000. Now, year to date, our average deal size is more like 1.7, 1.8 million, and seems to go up every year. When I joined, it was just myself, Mark, Jason, and Amanda. Everybody's still with the team now. We've got a total of 15 advisors, and at the point where we might need more based upon this continued crazy growth that this particular niche is seeing. Yeah.
Well, okay. So let's talk a little bit about the crazy growth, because, there was a time when it was like not very many people were talking about, let's say, the Amazon e-commerce world.
Yeah.
It was almost like Amazon was kind of still in competition with eBay. I don't think anyone would even consider that to be remotely in the same ballpark, at least not here in the US.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed. In fact, sometimes people will say like, oh, like, do you know so-and-so, like they're talking about some guru in the Amazon space, and they might have a huge following. I've never heard of them, just because I think the world has gotten so big in the Amazon world. So
big and small all at the same time. But yeah, it's very different than it was even just back in 2016. The rise of the aggregators, right? The Thrasios of the world, the Perch, the Boosted, all of these guys that have gotten so much publicity by raising billions of dollars has elevated people's consciousness about the ability to sell their online businesses, and has created incredible competition amongst themselves to buy them. And there's actually not enough businesses to sell to these guys at this point. They've raised so much money, they have to dispense it, but they can't because there aren't enough good qualified FBA businesses to sell. There's more buyers than there are sellers. But it is having a nice impact on the multiples. So the values are going up, right? Even just if you go back 2 or 3 years ago, selling an FBA business, meaning 100%, or call it 85 to 90% Amazon business for a 3-time multiple of discretionary earnings was kind of a stretch. Today, year to date, our average is much higher than that. Now it changes because the bigger the business, the higher the multiple, the lower the risk, the higher the multiple, all these different things.
Yeah.
But it's a time in history when FBA business owners have an opportunity to capitalize on all the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into their business. The book itself focuses in on the aggregators in chapter 13, and I didn't pick 13 on purpose. It just fell that way. But it talks about the benefits and drawbacks to selling to them. And if you're going to sell to them, because you've all heard from them. I mean, everybody that has an FBA business has probably heard from them at one point or another. It talks about the different types of deal structures that you would go through and how to negotiate, how to tweak little things. For instance, they created something called a stability payment. I challenge everyone listening to Google it. You won't find stability payments. I think I found it at a banking institution or something like that. They created this stability payment that basically is they're going to hold back 10% of the purchase price for 12 months to make sure that the business is stable, hence the stability payment. And if the business is stable, meaning within 90% of the prior year's revenues, they'll pay you that 10%. Really, what that is an earnout. It's just an earnout with a nicer name on it, because you get paid if the business earns 90% of the revenue it did the previous year. But there's key things if you're going to accept that. There's key things you've got to do, which is you don't want to do 90% or nothing, right? It's 90% or above, 85 to 90, 80 to 85. You need different tiers, so you don't lose $250,000 by 1/10 of 1%. And then there's other things that you need to do. Even though these guys are brilliant, they've raised a ton of dough and they're really smart and likable, and I'd have dinner and drinks with all of them for the most part. They still are growing like crazy and they make mistakes. They bring people in that are not as passionate about the business that you are. And they're going to run out of inventory. They're going to make a mistake and run out of inventory. So you've got to have a clause in there. If you're taking any kind of stability payment, earn out, anything that's tied to revenue or profits, you got to have a clause in there that says, if you run out of inventory during X amount of weeks on X SKU, then all bets are off. I get paid in full within 30 days, something like that, to hold their feet to the fire so that you don't lose that stability payment, that earnout, that seller note, whatever upside they're trying to give you, because they screwed up. You got to be real careful about those things.
Yeah, totally understand where you're coming from with that. Now, just to help everyone understand some of the terminology here, what is in a third grade definition, the difference between an aggregator and a broker? So just to be clear, you're with Quiet Light Brokerage.
Yeah.
You're on the brokerage side of things. What is the difference?
The aggregator or holding company or whatever you want to call them, they've raised money. They've gone out to private equity. They say, hey, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and buy a bunch of Amazon businesses, and we're going to put them in our portfolio. We're going to buy them at a 3-time multiple. And once they're in our portfolio, they're much larger, much more diverse, and the multiple automatically goes up. So they buy them at 3 times and it becomes valued at 10 times. So they are buying FBA businesses. They are reaching out to FBA business owners directly via email and saying, hey, look, we like your business. We'd like to buy it, avoid the broker fee. The broker is somebody different. Normally, the broker is smack dab in the middle, making sure that your package is put together, making sure your discretionary earnings is calculated, making sure that the right buyers are making the right offers on your business. And it does make a difference. They will say avoid the broker fee, yet they're going to look for a working capital peg of at least 2 months worth of inventory when they buy your business. A working capital peg is just a benchmark where they come from the private equity world and they want a couple of months worth of cash in the business, if you will, to cover expenses. And they look for that in the form of inventory at no cost. So if you've got $200,000 worth of inventory, if you blow through $100,000 a month of inventory, they're going to ask for that for free. So that's $200,000 out of your pocket. You should not do that. What you can negotiate there is, a happy medium, right? Maybe say, yeah, I'm not giving you the inventory. It's $200,000 out of my pocket. Why don't we achieve your peg with a 3-month seller note, right? The inventory. So you pay me the value of that inventory over 3 months. And I tell you what, I'll even wait for 30 days to collect the first payment. Boom. They've now got their working capital. They don't have to fund the inventory, and the business is going to pay for it. So there's a big difference between the broker and the aggregator. The aggregator buys the business. The broker helps to make sure you get the best value and the best deal structure for the business.
Yeah, and it's kind of like with real estate, where the broker is finding the match between the buyer and the seller, if I'm understanding this correctly, and then the aggregator is almost like the investor. So they're a buyer themselves. So buyers have one thought process and sellers have one thought process. And in full disclosure, Quiet Light is a sponsor of many of the events I've put on. And maybe one day I'll have a aggregator on here to talk about how their philosophies on things. But I think it's probably a good idea to get multiple people to look into something. So I was talking to somebody the other day who was looking to sell his business for multiple 7 figures. And I was like, if you got a doctor who gave you a certain diagnosis and it was going to be this major thing that could really change your life, would you want to talk to multiple doctors before you move forward with it? And he's like, well, yeah. So I said, I would recommend, whether you're already talking to Quiet Light, maybe talk to someone else, or, if you're not talking to Quiet Light, go talk to Quiet Light, or talk to a broker if you're talking to an aggregator.
I totally agree. Look, not everyone's going to want to work with me or Chuck or Jason, Amanda or David, right? It may not be a good fit personality-wise, or the same with any other brokerage firm. Like, we're not the only one out there. The best known for are probably us, FE International, Empire Flippers, and Website Closers. Talk to them all. See what fits right and feels right to you, and look at the listings. And no, I don't mean just the teasers. Right? Look at the full package. This is your livelihood. It's probably your greatest asset. Don't make a decision on one call or looking at a teaser online. Look at the full listing packages. Have multiple phone calls. Get advice. Get real tips. Don't get talked into signing an engagement letter until you're fully confident on who you're working with. And I wrote the book, and I'm going to hold it up here, Kevin, if that's okay. So look,
please do.
This is it right here. It's everything that I know, and it's there to help. Whether you're working with Quiet Light, whether you're selling on your own, your friend who's got, an offer for multiple 7 figures, he needs to read this to make sure that he's not leaving money on the table, right? And more than anything else, making sure that he's getting the right deal structure. We had, a couple of examples. We had a listing that sold recently. Chuck sold it for $5.5 million. It was an Amazon business, and it had an offer from an aggregator pre-listing, and the offer was just under $2 million. They give all sorts of logical reasons why the business was only worth $2 million. So it was one aggregator making an offer, not competing against all of the others. And everybody knows this, but sometimes we get so emotionally caught up in, wow, somebody loves my business. They want to give it $1 million.
That's a good number too. $2 million is nothing to shake a stick at.
Right, at all. But when you put it out, you put the package together properly, you calculate seller's discretionary earnings properly, the value immediately goes up, right? That's math and logic. And then you wind up with multiple offers listed at over $5 million. It's sold for 5.5-ish. Which was, easily 2 times what the aggregator offered, and a much better deal structure than what the aggregator offered. So whether you do it with a broker or with not, the reason this is just so damn corny, right? I remember I haven't even said what's corny yet, and I'm saying it's corny. I remember years ago, I was at, it might've been Traffic and Conversion or something like that. And I was sitting around a dinner table after the event, and somebody said, well, Joe, how do you like brokering? I said, honestly, I'm loving it. I really like helping people. I really like making a difference in their lives. And somebody commented, some wise ass across the table, said, oh, bull, come on. You just like making money. I'm like, actually, the more people I help, yes, the more money I make, but I really enjoy the helping part. And that's what this is. And again, I'm not going to make any money off the book, folks. It's me sharing everything I know about the online M&A world. And if you want to protect the value of what is likely your most valuable asset and exit it with peace of mind, all the details are in there. And I wrote it for you, and I hope that it does make a difference in your lives. See,
Awesome.
corny.
No, I don't think that's corny at all. I think that makes a lot of sense. And so for everybody watching, whether again you're on YouTube or Facebook, if you you can drop a question, and it doesn't have to be like, hey, I know I'm set up for a 7-figure exit next week, like somebody I was literally just talking to last week. He was in that spot. You might be in a spot where you're saying, I'm relatively new to this, just maybe hit the 6-figure mark in sales or whatever. You know what? The things you do today could affect what happens to you in the future. So now's the time to really start investing in, your wisdom and your knowledge and taking the right actions for one day, setting yourself up for success. So again, just drop a question in the comments, which I think we got some questions starting to come in, which we'll get to here in just a moment. But real quick, Joe, what questions would you recommend folks ask if they're going to talk to a broker or they get a call from an aggregator or somebody who might be involved in the transaction?
Yeah. So if you get, that email from an aggregator, you want to ask them, how much committed capital do you have? Right. And then do your research. Make sure they truly do have committed capital. Committed capital means they have money in the bank to buy the business. You might want to ask them what their typical deal structure looks like. You might want to ask them, how many FBA businesses have you bought to date? Right? You don't want to be their first transaction. How long does it take to go from letter of intent to closing? Of all of the letter of intents that you have been under, how many fell through and you did not get to closing? That's a really important one. Thras is the best known one. And I don't think that we've been under letter of intent with them a single time where it didn't go all the way through to closing. And that's really impressive. And we've had some situations where they were really tough transactions, like literally like IP infringement things and terrible things. So, okay. So, those are the questions I would ask the aggregator if you're getting an offer from them directly. But as you do that, I want you to think about the situation you're in, right? You're essentially, going on live TV and pitching your brand to Shark Tank, but only, Mr. Wonderful shows up. Everybody else is sick that day. That's like what it's like to sell to one aggregator. You want all the sharks in the tank at the same time and negotiating with multiple numbers of them. And actually, Stephen Pope here from my Amazon guy made a lovely comment about my hair. Thank you, Stephen. If you go to Stephen, if you go to Stephen's site on YouTube, he's got or his website, which is my Amazon guy, he's got a list of 50 plus aggregators that you can look at and compare and make sure, hey, if you're going to get an offer from one, you might as well reach out to all the others. And the book will help you with that. And look, I am an advisor. I'm a broker. I am a partner at Quiet Light. I don't think you should do it on your own, because no matter how good you are, it does get very emotional when you are a week or 2 or 3 away from hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. You will be stressed and something will fall off the rails. And as Jason says, the difference between a good and great advisor is the one that gets it back on the rails and gets it through to closing. So, the brokers, what you would ask them, really what I would do is just go through the process with them. Are they going to analyze your profit and loss statement? Are they going to do a proper add back schedule? You'll know how to do it. It's in the book, chapter 11. Are they going to do it? Make sure that they're doing it. If they say to you after a phone call, oh man, this is great. No, I can get you 5 times. I can get you a 5-time multiple. In fact, I've got a buyer that wants your business right now. Can I send you an engagement letter? You say, no, I'm sorry, you can't. You're just selling me something instead of trying to help me. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We in this industry earn our living on helping people first and foremost. The more people we help, the more we earn in the long run. But it's not by getting you to sign an engagement letter. It's by truly making a difference in your life. So look for somebody that's going to have that mentality and help you really understand the entire process and answer your questions. and then go through. So it looks like some questions are coming in here.
Yeah. So let's get to them. So Kraken Keyboards mentioned just placed our order for Exitpreneur. Super excited. So that's
Kraken
awesome.
Keyboards, man. That's an awesome name. I don't know who you are, but very cool. I gotta check
It is
that
a
out.
very cool name. It is a very cool name, and I believe the same person that wrote that comment I'm actually going to be talking to after this session. So
cool.
Super excited about that. And then just in case you would like to be like Kraken Keyboards and get your copy, you can go to maximizingecommerce.com/exit, which will take you to this page right here on Amazon. It is not even an affiliate link. I'm doing this because I want to support Joe, because Joe's one of the good guys. And, I've known Joe now for 3-ish years.
At least. And I appreciate that,
like
Kevin, but I don't think anybody would have minded if you did an affiliate link, right?
Sure. No,
you don't make much. You don't make much on the book, but you would have made money on the, what I call the TV and toaster effect, right?
Anybody, so hopefully somebody else bought, in addition to, maybe getting the 99-cent Kindle book, which, how long is the 99-cent Kindle version?
It's just through Sunday.
Okay. So if you want this for 99 cents, like literally, like, what do you, I literally bought the 99-cent.
Yes. But if they can't afford the paperback book for $18, then there's something going on in their business.
Right. You need to get this.
We had this whole discussion with a publisher about book pricing. And all I'm thinking is, gosh, if $18 is a challenge, then I'll find a way to get it to you for free. Okay. If you can't afford that, then again, I mean it. I'm here to help. I'll find a way to get it to you for
well, and they can always go to exitpreneur.io and sign up for a free chapter as well, if I believe too.
Yeah. Actually, I think there's 4 that I give away. I say free chapter, but we give away 4. And they're kind of the most
over delivering.
It's the introduction, which talks about the motivation, the inspiration, and then there's a valuation chapter, and then there's deal structures and negotiations. All those can be found free at exitpreneur.io. Couldn't get the .com, folks, and I still type it in by mistake sometimes.
That's okay. .coms are harder to come by these days. But Sarah asked, what do you view as a quote unquote true brand instead of just an FBA business? Or like how much, I guess one of the other ways I might ask this question is, how much is there a difference in the multiple of FBA only versus, diversifying risk and having, more Shopify and all these other things, like, or does that even really matter as much in this market?
Right now, it doesn't matter. I used to say that, a Shopify business that was 80% Shopify, 20% Amazon, that's going to be worth, 20% more than 80% FBA brand. And now it's not the case. They're at the very least, they're equal. And in some cases, I would say the FBA brands are more valuable because there's more competition to buy them and the multiples are going up. As far as a true brand, Sarah, I would say that the difference would be, if you are selling one product line, like say, call it grilling aprons, right? And you've got, maximizing aprons, right? And that's the brand. And you've got a whole line of colors and sizes and things of that nature. And that brand could also be, used in barbershops, because it's a wax apron and really, repels water and things of that nature. That's a true brand. A non-true brand would be one where you have a variety of different types of products inside of one seller account. So you might be selling a children's toy that is a great product that you found on Alibaba. You've private labeled it and you're selling it in your seller account. But then you also might be selling a predator guard, right? Something that would, alert the chickens that the coyotes have come into the chicken coop. And that is more of a, an FBA business, but not a brand. Both are sellable. The brand might feel a little bit more exciting to an individual buyer because that's what they're looking for. The aggregators are not caring as much because they're buying all sorts of different brands and putting it in their portfolio. They're all individual companies when they do it, but they're putting them all into one giant portfolio and, gaining a ton of instant equity in the process of doing it. So, that's the difference between what I would call an FBA business and a true brand. I think if one edged out the other, I think the true brand might be a little bit more valuable, but they're both very sellable.
Now, is it still one of those things where maybe you can get a slightly higher multiple, like 3.1 versus 3, if you have some things that might diversify the risk a little bit, or is it pretty much
Yeah.
they're just
So
buying?
yeah, well, lately it's a bit of a frenzy, right?
Right.
They're just buying. We sold a pet product that it had recurring revenue, it had B2B, it had Amazon, and the discretionary earnings. And this is not reality, folks. It really happened, but it's not it's not common. It's not the norm. And
Results may vary.
yes, thank you. Put that right up with it. Results may vary, but this person got like
Yes.
a 6.5 time multiple on the business, multiple offers, beautiful cash deal, some nice back end benefits, and that one wasn't actually your typical aggregator that everybody knows about.
Mhm.
It was individuals competing against it as well. All right, are you selling to the traditional aggregators or both the aggregators and hedge funds? Just the traditional aggregators. I haven't seen any aggregators that would be considered hedge funds. Even Thrasio, who might be going public soon with a SPAC, they're not necessarily a hedge fund. These are people that have just simply raised tens, if not hundreds, or in some cases billions of dollars to buy FBA businesses and then roll them up.
Gotcha. Are most buyers against you continuing to keep other brands that operate within the same industry category, or does not compete come up a lot? So I guess if you're
Non-compete is absolutely part of the deal, Mr. Kraken. You're going to have to sign one, but the non-compete is pretty specific. So basically, if I'm giving you $1 million, I am not going to give you $1 million to have you turn around and compete against me selling keyboards.
Mhm.
Right now, there may be a difference if Kraken Keyboards is specifically for gaming. All right, and I'm going to buy Kraken Keyboards, and it's a gaming keyboard, but you want to go ahead and sell keyboards that are wireless for, typical work situation. You're not competing for the same customer there. And
Okay.
so that may be acceptable. And so anytime you're going to sell a business, you are going to sign a non-compete of some sort. Typically, they're in alignment. Just assume that it's in alignment with the multiple. So if you sell the business for 3.5 times, your non-compete might be for 3.5 years. And it's essentially competing for the same customer for the same product or product line. That's it. But you can sell anything else that you want to on Amazon, even a beautiful wireless mouse.
So like if I'm selling keyboards, even though mouse is still kind of probably in the same aisle at Staples, it's probably going to be okay, or it depends on.
It always depends, right?
Mm,
There's no single one answer, but it always depends. So if Kraken Keyboards already sells wireless mouses with their keyboards, then no, you're not going
got
to be
it.
able to just sell mouses or mice, whatever that term would
Right.
be.
I never know what the plural is for this device.
Right, that device there. But part of the things that buyers are looking for is growth and growth opportunities. So, you might have already added wireless mice. All right, I'm going to just call it mice. All right, you might have already added that as a growth opportunity. You might have already sourced it. You just didn't launch it yet, and you're presenting the business with clear paths to growth. Well, that's a growth opportunity. It's not a clear path to growth. Let me just define the difference since I brought it up. A growth opportunity is an idea. It's an opportunity, something that you've come up with conceptually and you've laid out the idea, but you haven't hacked away the jungle forest and cleared that path. When you hack away the jungle forest and clear that path, it means you've launched that product. It's just not a year old yet. It might only be 6 months old. And so it's still growing. And so there's built-in upside for the buyer because it's not even a year old yet. That's a built-in path to growth that buyers absolutely froth over and they love. And you want to keep track of that particular SKU and how it's doing over time to help you get a higher multiple and a higher value for your business.
Gotcha. Do you recommend how to change financing, et cetera, to maximize outcomes? I've heard when you work with a broker, it sometimes is best to start working on it 6 to 2 years before maximizing the exit, which, yeah, I guess. So the question is like, when should you start working on this?
Yeah, when should you start working on your exit? As soon as you can, right? Not the day you launch the business. You can think about it. You can buy this book and you can have it on your nightside table. If you're having trouble sleeping, there are parts of it that may put you to sleep. So I'm glad to help with that. But I'd say I prefer 12 months and what you want to do is first set an exit goal. How much do you want to sell your business for? And then you kind of reverse engineer a path to that. Okay, well, where am I at today? Let's say you're 18 months into your business and you want to sell it for $2 million. And you got to figure out, okay, 2 million is my exit. Where am I at right now? How much is my discretionary earnings and what are these businesses selling for multiple wise? So if you're at, 300,000 in discretionary earnings, good for you, because that's pretty impressive after 18 months. You're not worth $2 million, right? But you might be when you hit 500,000 or 600,000. And so you can sort of track that out. And then you want to look at the other things. It's not just the numbers, right? The numbers is 10% of it. The rest is 90%. You want to look at SKU diversification. You want to look at growth trends, growth opportunities, transferability of your business. I had a client that had 4 brands in one seller account, and he wanted he woke up and he wanted to be done and just sell all 4. That was his plan, and he knew what to do. And he said to himself, I'll get to it someday. And he woke up and someday was here. The problem with it was that 2 of the brands were less than a year old, and he's pumping a lot of money into launching them. So they were negative SDE. Don't sell those because that's just going to hurt. The third one, it was actually the most profitable, but one of the SKUs, he had exclusive rights to sell it online, but he couldn't transfer those rights. So the owner of that patent said, no, man, we love you. We're not ready to let anybody else sell this. So that was an unsellable business. So we had 4 brands. He ended up only selling 1. So you want to think through those things in terms of what buyers want, what they fear, what they love. And then, of course, there's the documentation. And I'm talking about clear financials. You got to use QuickBooks or Xero. You got to understand what accrual accounting is, and then the full IBAC schedules and things of that nature as well.
Awesome. Now, one question, which I think it's probably fits in with what you were just talking about, SKU diversification, is how long do you hang on to a product that doesn't sell and how to get rid of it? So the how to get rid of it might be a more of a challenge than we probably can dive into. You can always figure out ways to get rid of it, but like, how does that look to a buyer if you had a SKU that didn't work out?
And I'll leave that second part to you, Kevin, and other experts in the Amazon space. How long do you hang on to it, or what is it going to look like? So, if I'm selling a business and you're constantly launching new SKUs, let's say you launch 3 a year, and we're looking at the trailing 12 months, and you say, but Joe, these 2 didn't work. Can we get rid of those and add back the expenses to that? The answer is going to be no, because you have a history of launching 3, and your new owner of the business is going to do the same thing. He's going to launch, or she's going to launch, new SKUs on a regular basis. That's how you thrive in this industry. So it's not an add back, unfortunately. But how long you hang on to it is really a question for the experts like Kevin and Scott and Jack Nissen and those folks before you make your decision on when to pull the plug. And I'm sure I would imagine, Kevin, it's a very individual decision on how much you're willing to hang in there and lose before you say, okay, I'm done. I need to move on to the next product.
Well, yeah. And I think some of it too depends on, the market you're in, the competition factors. I mean, it could be something where it's some markets just take a little while to get into. It might take 6 months to a year to really get a foothold. Others, you could put it for sale and start getting sales profitably right away. Yeah. So it depends. It's really hard to say. And there's so many different variables on that.
So and let me combine this with, and you're selling your business and you have a plan to exit in 12 months, right? So if you've got a SKU that is without a doubt losing money month over month and you're planning to exit in 12 months, it's time to pull the plug, because that's just going to hurt the value of your business when you do go to sell. So if you're losing $1,000 a month and you think just one more month it's going to get there, or you're losing $50 less each month, it means you get a long runway before you start making money. You're roughly, call it a negative 10,000 times a 3.5, 4-time multiple, 3-time multiple. You're $35,000 off the list price of your business if you didn't have that negative SKU. Now, if you are not planning to sell, you can hang in there and fight that fight a little bit longer. But you always want to think about the launch of new products. If you're selling, you want to at the very least be at a break even. When you're selling, that way you can say, we've just launched these SKUs 4 months ago, and they're already breaking even. they're not in the negative. So you want to wait until you're at least breaking even on it before you sell your business, release your business.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to, because if you're losing $1,000 a month on a product, let's just say hypothetically, at a 3x multiple, that means you're losing $3,000 per month or up to 12 months, right?
Exactly.
That's up to $36,000 on a failed product.
And this is why, going back up to Sarah's question, right? Yeah. Or Luis's question, why you want to plan. No, take that back. Why you want to train, right? Why you don't want to wake up and decide to sell your business, because you're not going to be able to think about these things and prepare for them and make those decisions. Right. Mm-hmm. And I know that if you're emotionally tired and ready to move on, I was too back in 2010, but Mark inspired me. He motivated me. And when you get that education, those tough days get easier. Those hurdles get easier to jump over, and the ruts to go around, because you've got a goal in mind and you're marching towards it. And it's not, I gotta launch another ski. I'm on this hamster wheel. How do I get off? It's more of a, I'm targeting something, I'm moving towards it. And life does get easier. And I do find, actually, Kevin, that a lot of people, when they get the education, they move the goalpost. They might say, okay, my exit's $1 million. And I say, all right, well, you're tracking towards that, but it's going to take 8 months. And we get 8 months in, and okay, your value is definitely at $1 million now. What do you want to do? I more often than not, I hear, damn it, you know what? I'm loving this. I'm actually more motivated than before. Let's move that goalpost. I think I want to look at a $2 million exit. Let's revisit. And that's exciting for folks.
And that's the nice thing, is when you're the owner, you get to be the one to call the shots. Whereas, if you have a job, and they decide we no longer need you, here's your 3 weeks of severance. That's whatever the policy is. So now here's a question about, I guess, the general market. When do you think valuations may decrease again?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we've gone back and forth on that. I truly believe that we are still at the tip of the iceberg in terms of, the ability to sell online businesses and having enough buyers out there. There's a lot of competition among the aggregators for the FBA businesses, but again, they've raised a ton of dough, and they're not even at their multiple threshold yet, because they can't buy these businesses. They can't find enough to buy. So I think the multiples will at least hang in there for another 12 to 18 months. We were a little worried about the potential capital gains increases and what kind of effect that would have on people's desire to sell, which I guess would have the opposite effect. It would have few people wanting to sell, and the only way they'd sell would be a higher multiple, because they're going to pay more in taxes, so they need a higher value. So I don't think it's going to happen real soon, Sarah. I think we're going to be around for a while in terms of this. I don't want to call it a gold rush, because those ends. What's happening here, in my view, is that these private equity firms are finally waking up to the legitimate value of the businesses that you are building. That's what's happening. Mm-hmm. They're not looking at these as very high risk, fly by the seat of your pants businesses. These are legitimate businesses that have legitimate reviews, legitimate customers, legitimate brands and processes and SOPs and things of that nature. And they're valuable. If it was a 10-year-old manufacturing firm, it would be, selling it 7 or 8 times instead of, which still, to them looks like a deal. These private equity firms buying an FBA business for 4 times looks like a steal. And so I think the multiples will still be around at this level for some time, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah. And one of the things, just my personal observation, is people are trying to park money somewhere. And so if you could put money into something like Bitcoin, which is all over the place, or you could put money
my son told me to buy it yesterday. So,
Oh, okay. Maybe you should. Maybe
he's 19. So
okay, good. He's got it figured out. Or you could put it into something that's more of a cash cow, that's not just based totally on valuation and ups and downs of the valuation, but there is money flowing in and out of the business profitably. Then I would say it would make more sense, especially if, whether you're an aggregator or a mom and pop buyer, to, continue buying businesses. So I don't, my personal opinion is we would see a lot of other factors in the economy changing. But then again, sometimes you strike where the iron's hot. But I'm not selling my own business anytime soon. So I guess take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Now, this will be our last question here because we've got to wrap this up. But with many large Chinese sellers providing their products on FBA, have you seen manufacturers buy the private label brands that they're already producing for? So that's a good question. Like, where are all the Chinese sellers? Because there's so much talk about Chinese manufacturers who become sellers, or, sellers in China who, have their buddy manufacture it, Are they selling?
So to answer the specific question, have we seen these manufacturers buy the private label brands they were already producing for it? No, haven't seen it yet. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. Maybe happening. What we're hearing about, and I'm sure you're hearing about it as well, is that manufacturer will go ahead and create their own brand with that product and try to sell on Amazon. The sky's always falling, right? With Amazon, Chicken Little,
True.
Sky's always falling. I feel the same way about, these Chinese manufacturers. They're cheating, right? And it may be working for a while, but eventually they're gonna, Amazon's gonna figure it out and find a way to punish them if they're cheating with reviews and all these other things. And so I still feel like if you run your business with a mindset of I'm gonna build a great business for great customers, for a great buyer to eventually take over at a great price, you will win in the long run.
Awesome. All right. So just as a reminder, if you have not already done so, for a whopping 99 cents, you can get the Kindle version of the Exitpreneur Playbook on Amazon, or you can also be like me and get the $18 soft version as well, which I think is going to be arriving in my house today or tomorrow or the next day. So I'm super excited about that. Joe has been super giving with all of this information. So Joe, I want to thank you for sharing with people the playbook. Not just that you've written, but you've always been very forthcoming with helping and seller education over the years, even before you ever decided to write this book. So I want to commend you for that. So thank you so much for doing this and for coming on and continuing to share your knowledge.
My pleasure. Happy to help. Hope everybody got something useful out of it and, can prosper.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.